Well, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And listen, we have three incredible topics, one of which is extremely controversial. And the man of the hour has just arrived, Fuzzy Belvedere. We're going to come to you secondly. I know you said you were coming in hot. This this topic is directly for him, specifically. Before we get into the three topics, I want to welcome everybody here. I also want to say a big thank you to my panel members. And I want to say a very special hello to our guest. You know, he used to be just a podcaster, used to be just someone that ran a website. Now he is a producer of his own game, Back to School. Welcome back, Zemi Games.
Hello, thank you so much, man. It's been a very, very long time since I've been on Breakfast with Boom. This is where it all started, the whole podcast journey, and I'm back. So
Well, you know
I
what?
appreciate the invite.
It just so happens that we're talking Starfield and we're talking Hogwarts, and those are two of your favorite topics. I originally was going to have the State of Play playing in the background, so once we get to the Hogwarts part of the show, you guys can see what we saw. But WB, they're a bunch of MFs, and even though I wouldn't have sound, I've seen them shut down channels for stuff like that. So it's just going to be Forza Horizon 5 and Halo gameplay today. I didn't want to take a chance. I mean, we just hit 10K, and the last thing I need is a strike from WB, who I know are just terrible when it comes to the community. So, but listen, Zemi, welcome here, brother. We're happy to have you here. Let's continue. Crispy Bomb, you have been really going at it in the DMs with us. You have a lot to say on some of the topics. I can't wait to get your opinion on it. Welcome.
Oh, got my coffee, Boom. I am ready to roll. We got some great topics, people. What up to the chat? Share this out, like this. Let's go, baby.
Indeed. Yes, please share this because, YouTube is, they've been kind of effing up lately. I'm getting a lot of messages from people saying, hey, Boom, I'm not getting notified when you go live. And unfortunately, that's not my fault. That is, we are at the mercy of the tech gods known as Google and YouTube. And sometimes they just make mistakes. And hopefully that mistake is fixed quickly enough. But let's welcome in Fuzzy. Fuzzy, you did something very uncharacteristic on Twitter yesterday, and you had a lot of right to do so. I was saying before that personally, I may not have used the explicits the way I would have probably blocked them out. But seeing how mad you were on what exactly happened is why we're opening the show with the Grand Turismo microtransactions and update drama, and that continues, and it's very disappointing. You have put a significant amount of time into it, only to be brick walled by an update. How are you, man? And welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. What's up to everybody in the chat and everybody on the panel and our special guest returning? Man, it's awesome to be here with you guys. But as far as Gran Turismo, it's one of those games, and I know a lot of people in the audience probably heard me a couple of weeks ago when I was saying, the beginning part was a bit stressful or a little frustrating as far as the slow grind. But once you get into just focusing on the cafe stuff, it opens up and you can get to the fun parts where you have your cars that you want to race and the tracks that you want to race at and stuff like that. Well, their most recent update, because they've made this game a little extra grindy, more so than previous Gran Turismos, more so by a long shot than they did for Gran Turismo Sport. By adding these microtransactions and turning up the grind notch just a bit, they saw that a lot of people were racing at tracks that had reasonable payouts. They weren't anything spectacular, but for 10 to 15 minutes of your time, you could get, maybe a $50,000 payout or $30,000 or $35,000 payout, which sounds reasonable to me. I mean, if you look at GT Sport,
in video game, that's called farming. But listen, before we get into what sets you off, let me just continue with the introductions, and then we're going to go right to you because I'm going to let you run this topic because obviously, like I've said in the green room, if there's any one person that I know that is qualified to take on a topic that involves racing, it is going to be Fuzzy Belvedere. But Web Dave, welcome back to the program, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great, Boom. Thank you so much for having me on today. And man, this is going to be absolutely on fire discussion today because Crispy's comments pregame and Fuzzy, I know his opinion on some of this stuff from talking to him the other day. And man, this is going to be crazy. And it's also great to have Zimmy here because I know that Dobby loves Zimmy. Dobby loves the Zimmy games.
He does. He's actually right there.
There's
He's
Dobby.
right there.
Hello, Dobby. Dobby,
Yep.
my favorite elf.
Yeah, Dobby. Maybe Dobby makes an appearance because he is old.
He is old.
Yeah, so we'll see. But listen, dude, I'm glad that you're here. Fuzzy, before I get to you, brother, we got to shout out a couple of people. Drawn TJ drops not one but two super chats. The first one of $2 says, "Morning, Boom and panel. Morning to you, Drawn TJ. How the heck are you?" We also have a comment from Kingfish 737, who's been a member of the channel for 2 months. He says, "Another awesome episode with Boom and the amazing panel." Well, thank you so much for the compliments and thank you for being here. And Drawn TJ drops another $10 super chat. Thank you for the generosity, my brother. He says, "Gran Turismo 7 is a dumpster fire. Sad. 6 years to make an amazing game. I was looking forward to do battle between GT7 and Forza Motorsport, but it's going to be a bloodbath." Oh, there's no doubt about it. But listen, Fuzzy, let's get into the weeds here, so to speak. Gran Turismo 7 came out. It was sitting at an 88 for quite some time on Metacritic. A lot of people reviewed the game. Some people seem to overlook several of the graphical issues that the game was having. So we're not here to talk about the score. The score is the score. It is what it is. But what we are here to talk about is, upon release of this game, officially, the game was marred by egregious microtransactions. Cars that were costing $5 in the real world during GT Sport were now $40 if you wanted to go out and buy these games. So take it from there. What they do the update, and they make it even harder for a player to make ways into this game. And why is that?
It seems like, I guess they saw that a lot of people were grinding certain races where, the payouts were a bit better, or what I would consider reasonable when you compare it to like GT Sport. GT Sport's payouts were a little bit better, especially for the custom races where you were doing like an hour-long endurance race or something like that. But they saw that people were playing these certain tracks or racing there, and they decided, hey, why don't we cut some of the payouts by $5,000 or cut them in half or cut them down to a third of what they were, just so that way, at least it seems on the surface that it seems like they wanted to help, push or nudge people more towards topping up their, insufficient credits by, doing the microtransaction form, using real money to buy in-game currency. Or at least that's how it seems on the surface to me. I mean, I understand you don't want to have it where you get all the cars right away. And I know a lot of people like to make that comparison to, Forza, but I beg to differ on that. Depending on how you play Forza, if you're going for exploits, sure, you can get all the cars, but you could do the same thing in Gran Turismo. And then in the cafe, you get a lot of the higher end cars, fairly early or earlier than you probably should. But all of that aside, if you're looking to race in the game and build a car collection, because they try to emphasize the collecting of cars as being one of the key features of this game, you're more than likely going to have to at some point top off your in-game credits with real world money, because unless you're going to do hundreds of hours of the same race or hundreds of different races but with the same car, because obviously you can't have a whole bunch of cars if you're only getting like 2,000 to maybe 6,000 per race. It's going to take forever to get that $20,000 Jaguar or the classic Jaguar race car that they have, or like a $3 million Ferrari classic or something along those lines. So it just seems like, yeah, there was a few other bug fixes that they could have patched, but it seems like they really wanted to put the screws to the players as far as in-game currency, and just making it that much tougher or more grindy than what it was beforehand. But yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I was fine with the way the credits were paying out before. Like, yeah, it was less than what it was in GT Sport. And bear in mind, GT Sport, you didn't have to really pay for maintenance. Well, you didn't, there was no maintenance fee at all. So you didn't have to worry about oil changes or washing your car or any of that stuff. The only thing you had to use was what they used to call mileage points to pay for, like, lightening your car or adjusting your suspension and things like that. But you got the mileage points on top of in-game credits. So when you want to race, let's say you did 5 laps at Brands Hatch, you would get like $23,000. Well, you do that now, or before the patch, you were only getting like maybe 16,000 at max, and that's if you were racing on like the unbeatable level or like the tough AI to even get that amount. So they already cut the winnings, a good bit. But like in sport, you would get the mileage points, which would be like 10 points for every mile that you raced. So you would accumulate those in a few races. You would have enough points to either buy a pace car or buy, a collection of wheels or special paint. Like they used to have like different like candy paint or metallic flake paint that you would have to buy separately, which you still have to buy in Gran Turismo 7, but it's in-game credits now that totaling the amount of like $2,000 to $4,000 for paint, when it was like 100 credits to 2,000 credits as far as mileage points in GT Sport. And like I said, you always got those GT Sport or those mileage points on top of credits for your payouts from every race. So if you ran 10 races for 10 miles, you got well over 1,000 mileage points that day. So it just set me off. I normally try to keep a level head on things, but it was already like, all right, I got to do the same silly race with these minis to get, 50,000. So that way I could put the better tires on my Camaro so I can race at Daytona, which, by the way, they even cut the payout on Daytona, which I love doing the road course there. At that point, it was like, why do I even bother? It's like, they just essentially made it so unless you already have the cars you want and there's no real desire to get those $20 million or $4 million cars in the game, you're going to have to
some of the changes
that
they made, Fuzzy, seem to be very reminiscent of a free-to-play game, right? Rather than a paid-for game, which is where we have the problem.
Yeah. I mean, if it was free-to-play, I think I would be a lot more accepting of this model. But considering I paid a little under $90, or maybe it was around $90 with tax or so for the 25th anniversary edition, this is, excuse my language, this is bull. You know what? It doesn't make sense to me that they're going to now, take a race that just because a lot of people are doing this so they could finally get the car that they want.
But farming is a part of gaming. I want to bring up a game. People are going to get mad, so cover your ears. Elden Ring is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Right. There are several farming spots in the game that give you the ability to level up your character. And in some instances, you're talking 17, 18,000 runes per kill. Yeah. And it's easy as firing a bow. Now, some people will be like, well, that's not how you're supposed to play the game. I'm a purist, so I just want to grind my teeth until they break. And that's good if that's how you want to play. But a lot of people are using this to try different builds, to try different character, between magic and up close and personal fighting. So they never took it out. They did an update yesterday. I was a little concerned about it. Man, are they gonna kill these farming spots that everyone's posted on? There's millions of videos on YouTube, and no, they haven't killed any of those farming spots because farming is a part of gaming. Yeah. Right? It's not illegal. You're not hacking the game. You're not doing anything you're not supposed to do. It's simply you're playing the game and you're running over a level several times so you can buy different cars.
I mean, I could see if they patched something where it was an exploit, like you ran in reverse and then ran over the finish line, you instantly win the race, or some sort of like
I could see that being
exploits
an
and things
issue.
like that. Yeah, go ahead and patch those. Those should be fixed. But if you're already determining that you're going to have a set amount of payout, and then you see that people are using that payout, because there's no other real way to earn currency at a reasonable pace. It reeks of greed for these microtransactions. It also reeks of not
100%.
respecting players' time. I mean, yes, I'm retired, so I can sit here and play Gran Turismo for 4 hours straight, have lunch, and then play another 4 hours. Because other than stuff I got to do around the house or help the kids with homework, I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, not everyone is in that position.
Exactly.
And real quick, Drawn TJ drops an additional $2 super chat. Thank you for the generosity. He asked, "What is the highest payout per race? Like, what's the highest race payout?"
The highest one that I've seen so far is 75,000, and
Wow,
they cut
doesn't even
that
sound like a lot when cars are. And see, let's just stop right there, and let's just think about this for a second. You win a race, you get $75,000. You're like, this is wonderful.
Mhm.
Now we're talking, but are we? Because they're high-end cars that were $5 in real world money are now $3.5 million.
Exactly.
So you tell me, using simple mathematics, how many times do you need to win this particular race at 75 grand to be able to afford one legendary $3.5 million car? Well, that to me sounds like you might as well watch paint dry.
And the workaround used to be that if you were an endurance racer, like I like to be sometimes, and have where you can do the pit stops for fuel and tires, just set it for an hour or two. If you have that time to burn, no interruptions and stuff. I mean, yeah, you could pause it, but go ahead and do that, and you would get the same amount of money for sitting there for 2 hours straight, going around in a circle or going around on a road course. And I love doing that stuff, but if you're going to tell me now that instead of giving me 75,000 at the end of that I'm only going to get 26,000,
oof,
and that's what it
kick
is now?
rocks. Go ahead and kick rocks. I mean,
Go kick rocks.
I got to do this race 40 times to get the $1 million car. Like, and bear in mind, buying parts now costs the in-game money as well. So, and I used to be in aftermarket, automotive aftermarket. So they have racing exhaust for 10 grand just for the exhaust aspect, not the headers, just the muffler basically, or the straight pipe. And the most I've ever seen those things cost in real world, unless you're having some like custom bend type of deal, is going to be somewhere in the 2 and 3 grand range. And a lot of times you can get those for quite a bit less than that. So they don't even have realistic prices on some of the parts that are in the game. But
wow.
That being said, it's like, all right, you win 75,000. Let's say you won it with a stock based car. Well, the next race that you want to do is probably going to have to pay, at least that amount, because now if you go ahead and buy tires, which if you want the racing tires that are super sticky, those are about 37,000 for a set. And then you got to spend about 15,000 on the lowering suspension that you can adjust the camber and all that stuff. And then if you're going to do the exhaust, the headers, the exhaust, the back end, and then an intake, you're going to spend at least another 20 grand on those parts. So it's like, just fixing up one of your cars to make it more race worthy is going to eat up that 75,000 in no time flat. And if you want nitrous, which is like the cheat button, which, it's cool to have that in there, but it's 100 grand. And at least they refill it for you after each race. But it's like, man, I can only imagine they can make this even more grindy by like, oh, well, your refill fee is $5,000 or something ridiculous. And they have it where you have to do oil changes, which I have my Camaro. I've raced enough where I've had to do a couple of oil changes. I'm wondering when I get to 10,000 or 20,000 miles, if I may have to replace the engine, because they do have replacement engines. Now they showed like engine swaps that you can do, but you have to win those in some sort of roulette thing that seems weighted against you in most cases. But
if people are asking in the chat, are the servers down still after 30 hours? My brother Neo Mental in the chat just confirmed that yes, they are servers. And real quick, I want to just shout out Master Jazz 09. He puts a really important, worthy comment into the chat here. It says Monster Hunter, which we know is a grindy kind of a game, respects your grind and respects your time. Mm-hmm. Gran Turismo does not. Yeah. And that's a perfect example. Now, listen, Fuzzy. I'll come back to you in a moment, but I do want to get the rest of the panel. And Crispy,
Sure.
I got to bring you in on the conversation, but I want to read. Now, this came to once again, VGC, Video Games Chronicles. If you're not following them on YouTube, you should. If you're not following them on Twitter, you should. If you're not going there for your daily news on your phone for apps, you should, because to me, they have elevated themselves in a way that I go there almost every day for news. And I pulled this story. They were the first to report on the situation from the initiative earlier this week, and they were the first to report on the Gran Turismo patch 1.07. And this is what they had to say in the article. It says, a new patch for Gran Turismo 7 has reduced the amount of in-game currency for many races via reward, thereby making it harder to unlock new cars even after widespread criticism of the game's microtransactions. And they continue, on top of this, unlike in previous games in the series, players are unable to sell their cars to earn credits.
Yep.
Once a player has finished the game's campaign, the main goal is to collect the legendary cars, the most expensive cars in the game. Simply playing the game races over and over is the only in-game option to earn these cars. As a result of this, some members of the community came up with a list of tracks that they could exploit for easy credits. This list appears to be the main target of the game's latest patch. The patch, which includes the number of credits earned from specific races that players have been using to alleviate the grind towards these high-end cars, is being received poorly, especially as Gran Turismo 7 is a $70 or 70-pound game. Now, look, if this game doesn't have microtransactions, Crispy, then it's just a bad patch. But I have to agree with Fuzzy here, where it appears that Polyphony as well as SIE PlayStation is pushing players to spend real-world money, and they're doing it blatantly. And I'll say this, anyone who is a diehard PlayStation fan, if you do not call them out for this, then you yourself are a part of this problem. What do you think about that, Crispy?
You know, it's really sad because I really used to love Gran Turismo. I mean, Gran Turismo 2 is I consider one of the greatest. It was one of the most innovative racing games you ever played. Like I almost beat the entire game with the original car. I souped up the Celica so much that the thing had like 1,000 horsepower after I was done with it. I tweaked the hell out of that thing. And you weren't spending much of anything. You know, you would buy your parts, but you weren't spending anything to do anything, you know, and you could literally beat some of the races with its stock. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they're just like, you know, we know that, you know, it's kind of hard to do all this stuff, but let's just make it a little harder. Okay. Let's, you know, you got to spend your money. You know, at this point, you know, if Fuzzy has made me more angry than I already was, because I didn't realize, you know, how much they monetized even, you know, doing tweaks to the cars, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and it costs, you know, it's either the credits you put those hard-earned races into, you know, I mean, enjoyment in a game is not farming one race. Okay. You're doing it out of necessity. All right. So, you know, you're going to sit here and you're going to take away that 175,000. You're saying, nah, you only get 26. You can't even go to 50. I mean, it's like, they're like, okay, we're going to go and say, you know what? Nah, you can't do any of that. You don't get half of what you get now. And they're doing it all at once. And now the game's been down for what 30 hours now?
It's a little over 30 hours now.
I mean,
get him, Crispy.
I just want to say this, okay? If this was an Xbox exclusive, we ourselves would be raking it through the coals because we are Xbox fans. And I don't see enough people speaking up. I'm starting to see people that would normally defend until no end speak up. But there's a lot of people that are not speaking up. And if you allow this, don't be mad when they continue with all these other games. And it's pretty sad that we're at the point where you got to say, oh, Xbox, you guys that love Xbox just a little bit more than PlayStation, come save us. Come take all the heat. You know what I'm saying? It's getting ridiculous. I mean, this game is a monetization of until no end, it sounds like. And we raked through the coals Halo, which is the multiplayer's free to play, and we still raked it through the coals. We raked the Gears. Really, it was all skins. It had nothing to do with having a better car or nothing like that. And we still raked it through the coals. Okay. But I don't hear enough people that have a PlayStation and they like it a little bit more, or just have a PlayStation and they have this game. I don't hear enough people speaking up. And unfortunately, you know, you hear Fuzzy, and I feel for him because I've been there. All right. And it's sad that, you know, they're doubling down, even though people started speaking up to begin with. So apparently not enough people are speaking up. So I challenge you, because this is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen as far as monetization.
Yeah, it's probably the most egregious money grab I've ever seen in gaming.
At minimum, you have already paid $70 for this game. At minimum. Okay? This is not me downloading Gears on Game Pass and still raking it through the coals. Every time Gears was brought up until they fixed that Tour of Duty system, I said the Tour of Duty's trash. And you can go back and look. I have always been against this type of thing. And that was through a game that I downloaded on Game Pass. So you think about that. This is, I mean, some of y'all, I feel bad. And I know you're speaking up, but I guess it's just not loud enough, or your fellow PlayStation players that are playing the game just don't want to talk about it. Because at this point, I mean, it's bad news, but it's even worse news that they just doubled down on it. And I can't believe they did it. And on top of that, now it's been down for 30 hours. So even if you just didn't care, now you can't even play the game. So I don't know what's going on, but I expect people to hopefully by the end of today really come out here and say, you know, this is not right and they need to fix this, and they need to give some, at the least, give everybody 1 million credits for being down for this long. That's what I say.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Let me catch up with some of the super chats. Jacob Novak drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "As we know, Phil said that they don't have their own Nathan Drake. Uncharted is funny enough because it's based on Indiana Jones, which Xbox is making. Yeah, I think that's going to be exclusive, and I cannot wait to see what Machine Games does with that. They're normally first-person shooters, right? So they're making Indiana Jones games, which is bonkers, right? It is Machine Games. I'm correct in saying so.
Yes.
Okay. JC Carla Moreau drops an outstanding $2 super chat, and he says, "I'm trading my 25th anniversary of Grand Turismo in for Mario Odyssey." I think that's a big win, brother. Definitely, that's a big win. And Chaos Might, good friend of the show, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Sony is the biggest milker in the industry, and it's disgusting." Now, real quick, I got to find the comment because someone says something. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Give me 1 second, folks, because this is really good. Let me see, where is it? You know what? I'll find it, and I'll bring it up in a second. You know what? Let's bring Web Dave into the conversation, and we'll bring Zemi in. Web, this is another black eye for this game that has only been out for a week and some change. It launched with very good scores at 88. What we understand, and we heard from several people within the reviewing community, that Sony, SIE PlayStation, did not. They had the microtransactions not available during the preview, during the review, which I think is which is a sign that they knew that what they were doing was wrong, and that people would have taken points off for it. And I say that to say that if you folks remember when Forza Motorsport 7 was reviewed, points were in fact taken off for having microtransactions that it didn't have. It wound up having loot boxes that you could win, but you couldn't buy them with real world money like you can in Gran Turismo 7. And it got points deducted for that, whereas Gran Turismo didn't, because the reviewers, and I'm giving people credit here, didn't have that available during their preview. They were not made aware that these egregious microtransactions were going to happen. Now, with that said, we hear that it was already difficult enough to get these $1 and $2 and $3.5 million supercars that you want to collect. But we have learned now that credits, the way that you can get credits, are only through races, unlike before you could sell cars. So that was taken out of the game to push people towards microtransactions. And now with this 1.07 update, it appears that they are making it even more difficult. This is a giant L for SIE PlayStation. This is a giant L for Polyphony, and more importantly, for Gran Turismo. And the fact that the word grand is in there to start it out is an oxymoron, because there's nothing grand about this game at all, considering that it does not look as good as Forza Motorsport 7 from 5 years ago. To add more salt to the wound, they are now raking the player base over the coals with these egregious microtransactions. What do you say to that, Dave?
Well, I definitely agree with the panel, and I love the takes that we've heard so far. But I do have to admit, Boom, that this footage you're showing of Gran Turismo on the screen right now looks fantastic. Oh, wait a minute, that's
Forza
not,
Motorsport. That's Forza Horizon 5. That's right. That's how the game is supposed to look. That's
a much
calling that,
that's a
Dave.
much better game. I'm sorry. Oh, anyway, so but yeah, dude, it's I mean, what a slap in the face, really. I mean, not only to just, okay, we have some problems and they've heard the complaints. Let's double down on that. Let's just, we need to. They really want to play this game. They're going to pay for it. I mean, I love racing games, but I am nowhere near the skill level of Zimmy or Fuzzy on playing these games, or the skill level of Boom when he's off-road dirt racing. Sorry, Boom, but it's it is, and so to me, if you have to win high enough in the races to get the money to get the cars, dude, I have no chance. I'll be lucky if I'm in a go-kart, woohoo, because this it's just I'm going to be with the base cars forever at that point, unless I want to spend more money. And it's just it's sad that because they do have a good product that people will enjoy if they would do it right. And I just can't imagine what they're thinking, and the PR that they've got to be. They've got to know that's coming in, and then like even slightly, some of the most diehard fans are starting to, I guess, see the light, or at least confess that this isn't where they were hoping it would be. So I don't know. I think that they really need to take a step back and focus on the game that they've just got out, get it fixed, get it right, and take care of their customers, because after all, it's about gaming. We want to. This is supposed to be fun.
Yep.
It's not supposed to be torture. It's supposed to be enjoyable. And then if they made it not enjoyable racing game, that's what I got.
It's unfortunate that the game itself, because my brother Neo Mental bought it. I was actually quite surprised, and he didn't really know about a lot of the stuff that was going on, because he stays off Twitter most of the time. And he's like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I mean, it looks pretty good to me. He goes, I don't know what people complain about. But he's been a fan since the first one on PlayStation, the original OG one. He was a huge fan then, and I told him what was going on with the winnings. He wasn't aware that they had decreased the winnings. It's again, there's a way to say to your customer base, hey, if you want to play the game, you can play the game. Like I said, everything that they're doing seems what you would do if you were trying to sell, microtransactions during a free-to-play game. This does not seem fair to the people that spent $70+ or 70+ pounds on this game to have to spend this kind of real-world money. And even if by some chance Sony tries to do the olive branch and says, yeah, we're going to give all players $1 million in credits for us being off and for us basically trying to rake you over the coals, I still don't think that's good enough. And I'm going to tell you why, because most of their high-end cars are $2 and $3 and $3.5 million. So even if they give you $1 million credits, what's the big deal? You still have to win all of these races.
You can afford that Pinto now, Boom.
What's that?
You can afford that Pinto.
Yeah, you can afford the Pinto. Yeah, the green Pinto, absolutely. But you can't afford the very nice Lamborghini that you want. And then good luck on then doing the upgrades on it. But listen, Zemi, let's get your opinion on this. We were talking in the green room. You're not a big racing fan to begin with, but you are a realist. And what the writing on the wall is very simple. I don't think we're trying to skew this in any way to make this console war shenanigans. It is what it is. They're trying to rake the people over the coals, and it's clear. It was clear when the game launched, and it's clear now with the update. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I mean, it's for sure a cash grab, right? Like you can't look at and see like how the game initially came out and then seeing the updates that they've, added to it. Like I find it really, really hard. And I think a lot of people or anyone that wanted to oppose this idea would have a really, really hard time making the argument that, money is not the main motivator for this studio or for Sony or for whoever made these decisions to make the microtransactions as unfair as what they appear. And in a lot of ways, them coming out with this this patch for the game, reducing the amount of credits that players can get from certain races. And in a lot of the ways, the way that I look at it is it's almost like they, made a game, they established what the rules were, the players played, and they didn't like the results. So the devs decided to change the rules, so that it would favor them even more, right? Which is, extremely unfair, and so on and so forth. I also see a lot of similarities to what's happening with this game and what happened with EA whenever they released Battlefront 2, that being a paid game as well, if I'm not mistaken, and there being a ton of microtransactions, but the player, having to play for a ridiculous amount of time to be able to unlock items without actually having to pay real world money for them. Which which of course during that time did not go over very well, and hopefully it doesn't here either. And Sony or the dev team can learn a very important lesson here. But one thing that I find really, really shocking and is just the fact that this is happening to a Sony first party game, right? Like this is something that we see very, common and we've seen frequently happen in for third party games, of course, right? But I find it really, really shocking that this is happening to a first party game, from a developer that, if I'm not mistaken, Sony owns.
Yes.
In a time that is just really not convenient for this to be happening for Sony, right? They just dropped, their Horizon game, which is performing okay, but it's kind of in some ways being overshadowed by Elden Ring, right? And now they're releasing one of their most anticipated games, a racer that fans have been waiting for years, and it's plagued with an issue like this and such bad press that's going to come from this. I mean, it really, really makes you scratch your head and think, what is PlayStation thinking in doing this? Or, is this something that maybe they didn't know about or didn't have any control over at the time, or so on and so forth. But it's really strange to see this unfortunate thing happen in a game that so many people were anticipated, but then also it's such a bad time for Sony because Sony has a lot of challenges that they're going to be facing here in the coming years, and the last thing that they need is bad press from a highly anticipated game like this. But overall, I think it's terrible. I hope that the players rise up and very strongly, but professionally and cordially, communicate to the developers and the people at Sony that they're not happy with this game, right? And hopefully the dev team listens and Sony listens, and they decide to fix the game and make it more enjoyable for the player.
Yeah, no, 100%. I absolutely agree. And this comes on the heels of a sexual misconduct situation that's going on at SIE in PlayStation within America. As a matter of fact, we had a super chat come in from Jacob Novick, who drops a $5 super chat and says, besides the Gran Turismo 7 disgustingness, Sony has finally commented on the women's lawsuit, saying that that they're taking it seriously, but they still want to dismiss the claims, which is disgusting. Again, there's a lot going on at Sony right now. There's some real world issues in regards to sexual misconduct allegations that we talked about I think it was last week or the week after, and that's in itself is disgusting. And then now you follow suit with something that is, they're trying to take the money out of the pockets of players. It is one bad move after another for Sony. I don't know what is going on there. I don't know how loosey-goosey of a ship Jim Ryan is running, but it seems like they are bleeding from from everywhere, and it's not good. Bad press. I know a lot of people are like, well, bad press, people still talking about you. No, don't believe the hype. Bad press is bad press, and you don't want it. That is for sure. Let's see. Let me see. I'm just check the super chats because I think I had another one come in. Drawn TJ, wow, dude, he drops an additional $5 super chat. Thank you for the generosity there, Drawn TJ. He says, Gran Turismo 7 proves why it's hard to become a fan of Sony because they are anti-consumer. And this is another anti-consumer move. I just don't know what's going on there. This is a bit of a shocker. And you know what annoys me with Sony a little bit is the silence. It takes them so long to respond. And I don't know why that is. Like this, look, I personally have given it to Microsoft when they deserve it. And I'm not afraid to say that because I'm fair about my criticism. I don't use big curse words. I don't go out of my way to throw people on the buses. But if there's a situation like the perfect example, the games with gold situation, the minute they said that was going to be $120, I did an emergency podcast and I called them out on it. And what did they do? 24 hours later, they reverted back on it. Hey, listen, folks. We understand that we did make a mistake, but it is going to remain $60. We're not doubling up the price, this, that, and the third. So they immediately addressed it. I have a hard time believing that we're going to see anything come of this only because there was criticism out of the gate when this game released. And instead of addressing it and actually, explaining what they were trying to do and maybe make some moves to make it better, they've made it worse. Now, Dreadpool, you just jumped in. I'm not sure how much you've heard. Let me make sure that he didn't leave a message here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you obviously you've heard the hubbub online about Gran Turismo 7's microtransactions. We talked about it about a week ago. Well, it has once again wreaked its ugly head because now through an update they have lessened the amount of winnings because people were cheesing a particular bunch of races to gain credit so they can buy the cars they wanted. And, just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, everybody knows I'm going to say deceptive practices. They charged us an extra $10 for the game, and now they're going to bring this in. But I actually heard on Twitter that is not the case. They did respond. They said emotional damage. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, no, it's everybody had good points. I was listening on the drive home, and I'm just now sitting down and saying hello to everybody. So good morning, everyone. And it's just, it's one thing, when we're comparing apples to oranges and this and that, and just tearing stuff apart for just to be like that. But when you're breaking it down and this is something that as a community we're getting together and complaining about, like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
This is wrong. And this is as a community of gamers, not Xbots or ponies or any of that stuff. It is deceptive because you paid an extra $10 for a game that you thought was going to include everything, and here they are making it so you have
Still
to
nickel and diming
spend
you.
more. Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's not a free to play game. I can understand if it was, but you already paid for the game, and then they altered the game. So I feel like I'm at one of the carnies trying to play basketball and shoot it through the hoop to find out that it's not even a standard regulation hoop.
There's a piece of see-through plexiglass right over the top, so every time you shoot, it bounces out.
Yeah, you got the baseball, and you're trying to knock over the milk bottles, and the the middle one is glued to the plywood, or nailed to it, and no matter how hard. I mean, I just saw one. Literally, the guy hit it so hard it wedged itself between the bottle and the plywood that it was sitting on. And I mean,
Wow.
it's like, okay, but this is the same situation here.
Yeah.
You're altering the deal. The deal was $70 for this game. I understand if you're trying to make it better because there was faults, it was too easy, and there wasn't enough difficulty, and you're just running through it, because you don't want that in the game to be that easy where you can just run through it and then you got no reason to stick around. So I get it, but at the same time, we gotta have to think this is probably like one of their first forays into this, trying to figure out, hey, how do we monetize this a little bit better? How do we do this? So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. They don't do this, so they don't know. You know what I mean? So it could be part of that, but with them not speaking up, not saying anything, not acknowledging that, hey, yeah, we did this, or hey, the servers are down because of this. Nothing. It's dead silence.
Yep.
So emotional damage might not be too far-fetched from what they should be telling us.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. Real quick, John Wolf, generous friend of the program, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat. But it's what he says that makes a lot of grand sense in the conversation. Seeing a lot of excuses, and I agree with him. I see a lot of people backpedaling in the Sony community, saying support the devs. Don't be a knucklehead and start spewing support the devs. This is a clear cash grab. If you don't see that, it's because you don't want to see it. He continues and says, hey, PlayStation-centric gamers, it is okay to demand better. Shame on PlayStation for lowering the value of Polyphony's Digital's legacy. Yep. Again, we don't know who this is coming from directly, but I can tell you that it is gross. And like I said, I'm happy that I have a platform to talk about it. I think everyone knocked it out of the park, specifically Fuzzy, because, this is his forte. This is definitely his bag, if you will. And for him to basically lose it the way he did on social media, you look back at it and you say, something, he's 100% right, because he has not only invested real world money, but he's invested real world time that he cannot get back. And these changes do not respect the time that he has put into the game. And that in itself is egregious. But I do want to move on to the second, and this is another big topic. We're gonna get into a little bit of what we saw from Starfield on the back end, because that looks like that's going to be a banger. But we have to talk about Sony's state of play. But we're not really here to talk about state of play, because I could care less, to be honest with you. What I'm here to talk about is Hogwarts Legacy, which looks absolutely stunning. I gotta be honest with you, I would dare say that this game is, because of its popularity, because of how open world ended it is, because how it has become a full-fledged RPG. I think that this game at the end of the year, granted that it turns out not to be a bleeding buggy mess, and it actually works like we saw that it was supposed to be working, is going to challenge something as fantastic and unbelievable great as Elden Ring. Like I think that the three big ones this year, Elden Ring, which I didn't expect to be as big, especially for me personally, but you have Hogwarts Legacy coming out in the holiday season, which they didn't give a release date. I was a little disappointed with that. But you also have Starfield, and man, I mean, talk about three bangers going head to head. That is going to be one heck of a race. I got to go first to Zemi. He's not only our special guest, but he is one of the biggest Harry Potter fans that I personally know. This is a game that you've been waiting for. This is a game that you have been talking about. You've done videos about on your channel.
Yeah.
What were your personal takeaways from what you saw? Were you visually impressed?
Oh man, I was a pig in crap. You know what I mean? Like I was just rolling all up in it. Oh man, I was loving it.
I love it. That's great.
No, I mean just to like, you know, for the audience to have like, I guess some like understanding of like my history with this game is in 2018 the game was leaked. Like I think that they were doing some marketing testing in like a mall, and somebody took footage of the game or so on and so forth, and the game was leaked. And so we knew that at that point that there was a Harry Potter RPG coming out, but we didn't even know what the name was or anything like that. A few months after that leak happened, I started covering the game on my YouTube channel, Constant Gamer, and I've just been just very passionately following this game. And you know, yesterday we got to see 14 minutes of gameplay. We got to see like a small little developer kind of like
Which I quite
documentary
enjoyed,
interview
by the
thing.
way. Quite
Yeah,
enjoyed.
yeah. Which I thought they did a really, really good job for it and everything. They gave us so much details, but there's still, you know, a lot of things that that they, of course, can still talk about, I'm sure. I mean, for instance, they didn't mention Quidditch, right? Are we going to be able to play Quidditch in the game? Probably, but they didn't talk about it, and they didn't show gameplay of us doing that. But overall, like this game to me, just like looking at the gameplay, having read the books several, I mean, a ridiculous amount of times, having watched the movies a ridiculous amount of times, I can tell you that this game definitely appears to be a love letter to Harry Potter fans, 100%, right? They like graphically speaking, I mean, of course, like this isn't like a super next gen game or anything like that. I think that this is definitely a game that you know could be plausible to play on like the Xbox One, PS4. And I think it does release for those platforms, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless of that, the game does look gorgeous. Seeing Hogwarts and like, you know, with modern graphics in a video game is absolutely breathtaking. 100%. Like, and the animations of like seeing like the character like walking around, and or like they show a small little clip of like the character actually walking down stairs, and it, to me it just looks really, really good. And seeing the dueling between different characters, how it looks really, really accurate to how it's portrayed in the movies. But you know, but the animations just look awesome. Overall, I think it was a fantastic showing. I mean, I'm craving for more. I want to know more about this game. Another thing that really kind of caught me off guard is like I knew that they were going to, you know, expand on you know, the Harry like Hogwarts, and that the player was going to be able to go to like the Forbidden Forest. They were going to be able to explore Hogsmeade and other iconic areas in Harry Potter. But I didn't expect that, you know, players could go beyond the Forbidden Forest and see what lies beyond that, right? Or go beyond, you know,
the game looked.
Hogsmeade.
They showed a picture of the map. The game looks massive.
No, it does. Absolutely. And like being able to go to Hogsmeade, which is like a big hub, you know, for wizards around, you know, Hogwarts, to be able to go there is awesome. But then they also talked about how there's different individual like locations, like smaller kind of villages around or just homesteads around Hogwarts that you can visit to find quests to do, and so on and so forth. One of the things that, like, as soon as I saw it, just being a massive Harry Potter fan and being, you know, someone that's followed this game since way before we even knew the actual name of the game, whenever they showed like, you know, I think like the announcer was like, but be careful of like what you study at Hogwarts because it can lead to like unknown paths. And then like it shows the player's character perform the abracadabra, which is the killing curse in Harry Potter, which is a forbidden curse, which is very, very dark magic. That it absolutely is incredible, because what that tells me is that there's going to be like real player progression and probably choices, because, you know, based on what, you know, areas you decide to study while, you know, at Hogwarts, or depending maybe on choices that the player makes, you know, you're going to see different results, and one of those results might be being a wizard that uses questionable magic, if nothing else. Another thing that I really enjoyed about the showcasing is the game showed you like during certain parts of the game, you are going to be accompanied by, of course, students and friends, that you form alliances with, but also a school teacher. I think they said his name was Professor Fig, which is really interesting because in the Harry Potter books, there is a Mrs. Fig who is Harry's next door neighbor, who's a squib, so she doesn't have any magical abilities. But I thought that was really interesting. So maybe there's some relationship with that. Maybe this wizard that's helping the main character in Hogwarts Legacy is like the grandfather or great grandfather of Mrs. Fig that we see in the actual Harry Potter series. But I really like how they included that, because I got really strong vibes of, like what we saw in the books, or what we read in the books and what we saw in the movies whenever Dumbledore teams up with Harry in the second to last book and movie. Well, there's two movies in the Deathly Hollow, but anyway, in the Half-Blood Prince, whenever we see Harry team up with Dumbledore and him take a real strong interest in, I guess, Harry's education, I really like that, because I got some of those vibes from the movie that I think players are going to be able to kind of experience what that must have maybe been like for Harry during that time. I don't know. I am super excited about this game. I feel like I've been rambling and talking on for way too long, so I want to, give some other people some time. But I'm extremely excited. I love what we saw. I can't wait to see more. And it is my personal belief that this game is going to release on September 1st, because that's Back to Hogwarts Day.
Interesting. Okay. Very nice.
And we do know that that there is a book coming out being published by Insight Editions, which is called The Art and Making of Hogwarts Legacy, and that is set to publish on September 6th. So the game could, of course, come then as well. But there's a lot of rumors pointing towards a September release. I think that makes sense because Starfield comes out in November. And then I believe
people plenty of wing space to enjoy both games.
Yeah. And then, of course, in October, I think Gotham Knights comes out for Warner Brothers. 25th. So why would you want to compete with yourself there? So I think September makes a lot of sense. But I made a full video on that. If you guys want to, you can watch it, of course, after today's show on my YouTube channel.
Nice, brother. Nice. So listen, let's bring in Crispy Bauman on the conversation. But before I do, Crispy, Danny Passion Official drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says Elden Ring Game of the Year already. Starfield may get delayed. It's unlikely. That game is full steam ahead, brother, and they are polishing. That game is they're not developing that game right now at all. The development process has been done.
Plus, Bethesda doesn't really delay games once they announce the actual release date. Like they're really good on that. Like very good. Like So I don't think we're going to get delay with that.
From when it was announced that the game was being pushed into holiday of 2022, which is this year. You knew that they said it. Todd Howard said, we're just polishing the game right now. So the game is going to come out, and based on what we saw in that second episode of learning about Starfield, the game already looks amazing. That robot that said hello Captain looked dope, and that was in-game graphics. That wasn't a cutscene. That looked straight up out of the game. And listen, it was reported last year, and I don't want to get off track from Hogwarts, because we'll come back to Starfield towards the back end of the program before we get everyone out of here. The game was rumored to be 12 times larger than Skyrim. Just put that in your head for a second. And so I know Crispy has a lot to say about that, but Crispy, Hogwarts. Let's talk about it. I could care less who has the marketing rights. It was confirmed that it is coming out for Xbox. I know there were a lot of questions like, hey, they money hatted the game. They did not. Sony, I said it before and I'll say it again, they could not afford to lock this game up as an exclusive. They just couldn't.
I don't think AT&T could afford it, because I don't think Sony would be able to pay them enough money to, you know what I mean? Because we have to remember AT&T, they're in some pretty tough financial times.
Correct.
And releasing this game multiplat with it being such a huge IP, I mean, it kind of makes sense to me.
It's going to sell 10 million copies the first week, just like I was saying, like Skyrim, but Skyrim did sell that many, sold more than that. But just like Elden Ring, I think this is going to be a big winner. Any takeaways for excitement for you, Crispy?
Well, I'm not like Zemi. I'm not a Harry Potter.
You're not a Potterhead, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The
My
game's
joke is
still
I
look
call
dope though,
my
man.
my joke is I call him Harry Pothead, but I do want to call out one because a lot of people miss this at the beginning of the trailer or gameplay, whatever. They were super honest. They said, in-game footage, work in progress. Footage feature contains a mix of gameplay and in-game cinematics. Some camera angles adjusted for trailer use. Footage captured on PS5 developer kit. I don't see a lot of games doing stuff like this. Like that is total honesty. Okay. And you know me, Boom. I love honesty. Okay. Regardless of how the game is going to be later, for them to put all of that at the beginning of this trailer / gameplay is pretty impressive. I also want to say for Harry Potter I was going to say Pothead, Harry Potter fans, I think they're going to be really happy with this. It looks like a proper, Hogwarts RPG. It's not really Harry has nothing to do with it. It's what you
It's
make
a
the
prequel.
game.
It's essentially a
Yeah.
prequel to the
Yeah.
books. So that's fine.
So and you're gonna make your own story, and that is interesting. I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk lately, so I look at what they do with that and how I have so many choices and everything else. I love that. I love like Obsidian really like started to hammer that home, especially with New Vegas. So that type of thing, like me, the combat. I mean, I'm sure Zemi is like super happy about the way the combat looks. It looks very wizard and witch like, and it's got a lot of choices. I'll give them that. Like they really, you can play the way you want from at least what we've seen so far. And I think this is why we didn't see WB get rid of their gaming, that AT&T was like, oh, we could keep WB games because, they got a lot coming out right now. And, I think this is just the start. I think the hype is real. And I think they really put the time in this game. And I hope it's exactly what Zemi wants it to be, because at the end of the day, he's the one that's been hammering home that he's so excited for this game. And I don't really have a lot of negatives to say. Is it my jam? Probably not. Could it be my girlfriend and her son's jam? Possibly. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it comes down to. Like, you might see Crispy purchase the game because of somebody else, which is fine. And that's the beauty of it. But it definitely looks like a proper RPG. They really thought about everything they possibly could. And it seems like they took the time. So I was impressed, to be honest.
Yeah. I walked away very impressed myself as a fan of Harry Potter, and I've never read the books, right? So I know that's a checkpoint off for Boom status quo. I'm a big fan of the films. I love what they did with them. I know I missed a lot not reading the books, but I'm excited for the game, for the open world RPG aspect of it. Plus, based on what if you've read the books, you have visual representation from the films if you've seen the films, and in the books they've gone into many very explicit details in these areas. One of the things that I noticed from this gameplay trailer, even whether it would be cinematic or not, some of those areas are iconic regions within the books and the films, and to see them brought to life on a video game is just, it's bonkers. It is just bonkers to see how good it looked. Now, again, we'll know as the game comes out, but they still have some time to polish. Obviously, the game isn't coming out to the holiday. We haven't even hit the summer yet. We just started spring, so they got some time. I was very, very satisfied with what I saw. We had a super chat come in from Jerome TJ once again. Thank you for the generosity there, my brother. He says it's Gotham Knights 4-player. Unfortunately, it is not. It is only 2 players, even though there are 4 characters to choose. I don't know why that is. To be honest with you, it's a development thing. It should have been 4 players for sure, but maybe with an update, who knows? Let's get Fuzzy in on the conversation. Fuzzy, what are your takeaways from the state of play yesterday? Is the new Hogwarts Legacy in your wheelhouse, so to speak?
Not entirely, but I do like a lot of the things I saw as far as like the player progression and being able to learn different types of spells or different attack approaches and things like that. So the fact that they have not, instead of it just being like a skill tree per se, they have where you have real choice as far as the type of magic and things you want to go with. Definitely looks pretty interesting. Although I might be misunderstanding a little bit of the game itself. Like I'm under the impression it's single player, but I was wondering, considering that you can have like common areas, if it could ever open up and be something similar to like a not really a Destiny style like hub world type of thing, but it almost seems like there is that potential within that game. So either did I misunderstand it? It's not single player, or am I right that it's just a single player? But you
I
have
thought it
a
was.
whole.
I mean, Zemi, why don't you answer that,
I'm
brother?
pretty sure it's just single player,
Mhm.
but you know, I don't think that they've actually really 100% like ruled out the chance of co-op or possibly like online duels with like friends and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
If they have ruled that out, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But if I was going into it, I would go ahead and just expect that it's going to be 100% like a single player like RPG.
Okay.
But I don't think that they've really touched on that yet.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, everything about it looks interesting from a single player standpoint, but I could only imagine how how this thing could explode as a multiplayer or like a co-op type of game.
It would be
Um,
insane.
Oh, I mean, it would be absolutely cool AF to be able to like load into the game and like
Mhm.
play a game of Quidditch against like your friend, or
Yeah.
like do like a wizard's duel against your friend, or
Yeah.
play like I'm really excited. Like one thing that I didn't see during the gameplay yesterday, but I really hope that they add in a lot of like mini games like Quidditch, but then
Mhm.
also like add in Wizard's Chest. Make it where whenever you go to the common room, you can sit down with like a friend or something like that and play Wizard's Chest.
Yeah.
And like having some of those activities maybe be like online features, I think would
That
be
would be
really,
kind of
really
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's planned or not. Yeah.
I hope it is, because I mean that it seems like the way it's built, it should be something that can be, I wouldn't say easily implemented because I'm not a dev by any means, but it
Mhm.
just seems like there's that window of opportunity that they could, flick a switch per se and open that up. But everything that I saw, even though I'll admit I've never read any of the Harry Potter books or saw any of the movies, but it had enough to it that grabbed my attention to the point where it is something on my buy list. So I like everything I saw. Um, Very interesting, like I guess world in itself and outside the actual castle itself, as far as exploration and things, and having to learn how to ride a broomstick, and that not necessarily make that your fast travel, but to be able to travel further away a little bit faster is kind of cool. So having all those different mechanics in this game um just seem awesome. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. Originally I was kind of like, not a Harry Potter fan, so why should I care? But everything I saw in there, grabbed my attention, and being into RPGs in general, I actually am probably going to wind up picking this up day one.
It's for me. It's a day one, absolutely. Just because I love the films, and I love open world RPGs. And when I mean, again, it's nothing's a guarantee, right? This could have been a complete disaster.
Yeah.
We've seen IPs used and unfortunately not used to the best of their ability. I don't think this is one of those cases. I think we're really going to be very surprised, potentially even impressed with
Yeah.
this. Web Dave, how big of a Harry Potter fan, or so much, a fan of that world? Did Hogwarts Legacy do anything for you? Is that a day one for you?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Big fan. Like, enjoyed the movies. Still haven't made it to Universal yet. We usually end up going to Disney, but I would love to go there and check that out at some point. Does the game have Diagon Alley? I think that'd be cool. That would
I
be
th-
nice if they was an area you could go to. I don't remember
Um,
seeing that, but boy, that'd be
yeah.
cool.
So like I didn't see it in the gameplay, but I can tell you that like the gameplay did show the vaults of Gringotts Bank, which
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
inside of Diagon Alley. So I
There
would
you go.
imagine like maybe at some point you might be able to travel there. But I don't know. Yeah.
That'd be cool. And Boom, if there is multiplayer, I'm challenging you now to a wand fight. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm probably going to lose. That is for sure.
Or maybe we
because
can do a Quidditch
I just
match.
invaded a
and set it
bunch
up
of
as
people's
capture the
games in
flag.
Elden Ring, and
No
I
crossing
got
wands.
destroyed. Yeah.
No crossing wands.
Don't cross the wands. No wand tapping on this program,
Spectronus.
sir.
I'm sorry, but yeah.
Oh, don't cast the Patronus series to
No?
somebody. It's not going to do anything.
Oh darn it!
Yeah,
I mean, unless it's like a Dementor. Yeah.
he's gonna have a don't do that to Zemi. He's gonna drop out almost immediately. He's not gonna be good for Zemi.
You got to update it. It's called Catronus.
That's it.
Catronus says, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with Corona or not, but then if you are, or actual coronavirus, then don't do that because that's you're gonna get your friend sick. Don't do it.
Exactly. Don't do it. But
I mean, listen, Dave, I would imagine, and Zemi, I know you're hoping for this, some sort of a giant collector's edition, and I would imagine,
God, yes.
I'd imagine that they're going to have. Because fans are going to run out and buy this. Anyone that really does, and this has such a big fan base. This is going. I mean, I know Starfield is going to be big. It is exclusive to Xbox and PC. This is a multi-plat the same way as Elden Ring was. Man, I because of the Harry Potter IP, I have a strong suspicion that this might be the best-selling game of the year. I mean, I obviously could be wrong, and usually I am, but just because of the stoutness of the IP, and this game does look so good. I mean, look, I know graphics are graphics, and the gameplay could be horrendous, but from what I saw, I walked away incredibly impressed, and I cannot wait to get this game. Let's get Dreadpool in on the conversation. Dreadpool, I'm not sure how big of a Hogwarts fan you are. Did this game move the needle for you in any way?
This game, let's be honest with it. It just on the principle of the game, what we saw, everything that it's supposed to be, it's going to be a system seller.
Yeah,
plain and simple. It's not just going to be gamers. It's going to be people that are into Harry Potter, and people that I mean, we're talking about grown adults, not just kids.
Yeah,
that will go out and buy one of these consoles just to be able to play this. So I think it looks great. Granted, we don't know the final product, so we got to keep that in mind. Right now, everything is whatever they say. If it's in engine or any of this stuff, it's all prettied up for us. So we'll see a Puddlegate issue when it comes out. You never know. But I have high hopes for this, and I just can't wait to play it. Although I would like to have a sword or something like that, because I'm just like the Rambo kind of guy that wants to go in there, forget the spells, let's just destroy everything. But that's not this type of game. So, but I'll still play it.
I mean, it's. Look, I think that again, we don't know how much of the magic is going to, what magic is going to be there, how often you're going to be fighting bosses, how often you're actually going to be fighting. I know my brother Neo Mental in the chat said if he has to go into the spider forest, he's out.
There's not going to be any of those big spiders in the game.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% positive. Yeah, no, because it was Hagrid that actually put them in the Forbidden Forest. And this game takes place in the late 1800s, way before Hagrid was even born. So yeah, no, there's not going to be any big spiders in the game.
I have a feeling, Zemi Games, that there are going to be quite a few big spiders. Sorry, Neo Mental.
I'll be the prequel Hagrid. Neo Mental, I will find you and put spiders in there for you.
Now, that's not saying that there couldn't be werewolves in that forest, right?
Right.
That's not saying that there couldn't be vampires in that forest, or like angry goblins or other creepy, crawly things. But the big spiders should not be in that forest.
Well, I hope that they are. Just from my brother's point of view. I know you listen. So,
just make sure you play next time when you get to that part.
Yeah, you know what? We were playing Resident Evil when it first came out. And we went into that part of the mansion where he saw a bunch of spider webs, and he's like, "Yo, dude, there's a big spider." And I'm like, "Nah, come on, it can't be that big." It was as big as the screen. He was out. I'm gonna say he doesn't like spiders. I'm not a big fan. I mean, I don't have a pet spider or anything, but yeah, spiders are okay, especially those particular spiders. They're very hairy, and he did not like that. So shout out. Shout out to Neo Mental and
I'm
Heavy
not
Spiders.
I'm not a big fan of spiders either. They
Yeah.
creep me out.
You're not a fan. I listen, folks. I had
I'm not a
some
fan of almost
dead
anything, really.
I had Dead Space footage that I was going to play. I had 2 hours. I went back and I started playing Dead Space 1 and 2. And I was like, man, I forgot that Semi Game's going to be here. I said, listen, I don't want the guy leaving the podcast because it's too terrifying. So I changed it to what you're seeing now. But listen, folks, this was supposed to be a much larger topic. And it's fine because, sometimes you don't know how you're going to power through these things. We did like 20 something minutes. Someone had asked in the chat, how long is this topic? Well, it's over. We're talking Starfield. And there's a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, because quite frankly, I think it is going to be one of the biggest games of 2022, despite what we expect from Hogwarts Legacy, despite what we've seen in sales and just word of mouth with Elden Ring. There are so many things going well for this game. It's a game from Bethesda. It's the first new IP in over a decade. It is literally Todd Howard's baby. The more we hear about this game, the more I realize that this game is just going to be one of those games that when we sit to have a conversation, everyone is going to have a different way. Did you find Planet X? No, I did not. What was on Planet X? Oh, did you find Planet Z? Nope, didn't find that. Where the hell on the map is that? This game seems to me is going to have so many legs. I don't even know what to say. But what we're here to talk about is the Bethesda, and more specifically Todd Howard and his team. They're very good on the lead up to their releases of their big games. And what we've seen and what was released this week was episode 2 of learning about Starfield. And, we saw what appeared to me, and again, I could be incredibly wrong here. It looked like it was the particular part where the robot says, "Hello, Captain." It looked like the game. Like that looked like what you would find in the game. If in fact that is the case, that game is going to be unbelievably gorgeous to play, to look at, to fly around the world. We know the different kinds of races. We know there's different kinds of religions. Zemi, I got to go to you first on this, brother. You are, like Harry Potter and Hogwarts, one of the biggest fans of Bethesda, one of the biggest fans of Todd Howard himself as a developer, and one of the head linesmen, if you will, of Bethesda Softworks. What were your takeaways? I mean, could your hype meter break through past 10 with what they showed this week?
I think it did. But I'm gonna have a really, really hard time figuring out which game is my game of the year. I'll just put it like that, because between Hogwarts Legacy and Starfield, I don't know, right? And there's some real issues where that's concerned. I'm gonna have to figure that one out. But Starfield looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm beyond excited for it, right? Of course, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's part of me, like, deep inside that's like, I kind of wish it was Elder Scrolls, because I mean, where Bethesda's concerned, like, that is by far my favorite IP. But I'm really, really excited to see what Bethesda does with their first new, like, original IP in like over 20 years. I'm super excited to see. And from watching the most recent short, I was very, very, very impressed. I think graphically the game looks absolutely stunning, but even like just the world building and like the different factions seem really cool and unique. And I kind of got like the vibe, like some cyberpunk like starting vibes, because I mean, and I don't know if this is going to be the case, but it kind of, like, whenever I listened to it, it kind of made me think of this, like like they one of the devs was talking to the other, and they were mentioning like there's like a corporate faction, and if you start with them, then it starts out as like you're going in for like an interview with them or something along those lines. And that kind of made me think of what Cyberpunk did, and what also some other RPGs have done Dragon Age Origins having different maybe like starting stories. So maybe whenever you create your character, you can, choose maybe a starting faction. And of course, like with most Bethesda games, I don't think that you would actually have to stick with that faction, but it would be a really, really kind of cool and unique start to the game, and something that we haven't really seen Bethesda do before. We've seen them play with it a little bit. For instance, in Skyrim, towards the very beginning of the game, you're ultimately able to make a choice. Do you want to go with this guy who is a part of the Stormcloaks, or do you want to go with this guy who's a part of the Imperials? That doesn't really have any major implications on the main story or even any of the side stories for the most part. But we've seen them play around with that. So that's one thing that really kind of caught my eye while watching it. And then, of course, one thing that I've always kind of griped on Bethesda for is whenever I play these games, like I get really into them. Like I'm like role playing, I'm choosing like weird names for elves and stuff. Like I really get into it. More so than any man probably should. But one thing I always had a real issue with was, if I'm playing as a really good character, right? Like, but I still want to do all the content within the game. It's kind of hard for me to go to, like, for instance, the Dark Brotherhood and Elder Scrolls and become an assassin while I'm like this really good chivalrous knight. It kind of breaks the immersion for me. And so I really liked how they mentioned the whole pirate thing, them being, pretty much like an evil kind of faction in the game. But the player, from what it sounds like, isn't forced to have to choose to side with them and do evil things to progress through that faction. They can actually side with them and become like a good guy, for instance, and turn them in. And I hope that's something that they really, really expand on. In Skyrim, that was kind of there, but it locked you out of getting achievements and from getting a lot of the like the rewards. You could actually go and turn in like the Dark Brotherhood and Skyrim, but there was a lot of reasons why the player wouldn't want to do that. So I hope that they really expanded on this in Starfield and made like multiple kind of choices that the player can make for immersion, reasons. But overall, man, I think that the game looks really, really awesome. I think during one of their previous videos, they were talking about how they actually sent some people down to NASA and was like having conversations to try to figure out how the technology would work or should work, or how it could, hypothetically work in certain situations. And I think that that's one really big draw for like a space RPG. And that's one thing I really liked from Mass Effect was being able to like dig into the lore of Mass Effect and find out how these different technologies evolved. And that's another area that I'm really, really looking forward to for Starfield. But overall, man, I'm really, really excited for this game. I can't wait to play it, and I'm super excited. November 11th can't come soon enough. I'll just put it like that.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be this is going to be the year of Bethesda. I mean, Redfall, again, take it for what it's worth. We don't know what they're going to bring with that game. Is it going to be delayed from the summer to the fall? To the fall? Is it going to be delayed to 2023? We don't know. Obviously there was a lot of talk on the socials because of what leaked. Like I said it on numerous podcasts. I'll say it again. Please do not go based on compressed Twitter video as your end-all opinion about Redfall, because the same team that did Redfall, that is making Redfall currently, well, they've only made some of the best spy open world first-person games ever, right? Dishonored 1 and 2 are masterpieces. Prey is another incredible game, and of course, Deathloop was everyone's potential game of the year last year. So let them do what they do, and I'm sure that's going to be fine. But keeping with the Starfield tour, Crispy, I got to go to you next on that, brother. You've been back and forth in the in the DM regarding it, and you had a lot to say there. Let's hear what you got to say now. How big do you think Starfield is going to be, and were you impressed with the video? It's called Made for Wanderers, Episode 2. It's only 5 minutes and 35 seconds long, but in that conversation that Todd Howard had with some of the producers of the game, I walked away incredibly impressed. What about you, man?
My hype meter is through the roof. My hype meter through the roof is for Hellblade 2 as well. I feel like the developers that kind of give us little snippets and what they're doing and how they're looking at it and all these things that they're doing things. I almost feel like Ninja Theory is like, yeah, we're gonna kind of do what Bethesda has done. You know what I mean? Because Bethesda has done this for a long time. You got to realize that Creation Engine 2, and that robot, I believe it said in game, like everything's in game engine. So that robot, like literally, they have been building Creation Engine 2 for probably 10 plus years. Okay. They haven't used it ever. This is going to be the first time. All right. This is your engine. This is your Bethesda engine. As far as the RPGs are, Fallout 5, all these, this is their baby. Okay. And they're using it on a new IP first. You have to understand that. So the one thing I looked at is they had a little round table there with them. Those devs,
I loved it. I thought it was their excitement was awesome, dude.
And those devs have all been there for like
years.
almost 20 years, most of them. So their excitement, like literally, I thought God Howard was going to scream at one point. Like the smirk on his face. Like,
yeah,
I look at body language and I know how somebody's going to approach something. And he literally just wanted to tell everybody everything. Like he really did.
He's an excitable guy,
dude. In his eyes, you could see it in his aneurysms. And boom, you've learned that through being an officer.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. Like body language is a lot, and it can
tells you a lot about a person and what they're about to do. Yes, indeed.
And the confidence that team has at this point that they're going to deliver something absolutely special. And you got to realize, like, right now is a great time. I mean, it might be in any entertainment, TV, whatever. Like Mandalorian, Boba Fett, like all these space epics that are coming. Halo's going to come out, and I think it's going to be more well received than some of these sites that have watched the first 2 episodes. I think because they're going to go to a broader audience. You know what I'm saying? And then they're going to look at this Starfield and they'll be like, man, I could like be in like this space epic world. And the amount of research they've done. They talked to SpaceX. They talked to so many teams that are actually going to space and doing these things, and they're trying to make this game feel as realistic as possible, but also bringing your RPG elements back in there. Like when Zemi was talking, I'm like, dude, you guys do realize they're going back to Oblivion, which kind of started a lot of stuff, which they said, by the way, they're using some of those, you have your dialogue trees, but then they're trying to branch them off into this new thing. But at the same time, you can't say that, New Vegas didn't have this. You know what I'm saying? I told y'all I joined Caesar's Legion and then I killed them all. But you know what I'm saying? And when they go and say you could be a space cop, you know what I'm saying? You could be the the black ops of whatever faction you're in that doesn't like these pirates, but you could give them all the information. Like that's the type of stuff I love. You know what I'm saying? Like in an RPG, like you could be that shady mother MF that's actually good, being good shady, but at the same time being like, yeah, well, I did do this, but I had to make them, realize that, yeah. So they give me more information, and this is why I gave this information. And this is the point. Like they also brought out the fact that they really want these character models, even if they're AI, to really like bring this immersion to it. Like they really like in 5 minutes, they really like went in depth of what their thought process is. And from what I saw just there, I love it. And like I said, this is not, Halo Infinite coming out with Slip Space Engine. Okay. That felt rushed. These guys have been sitting on this. They have been making
many years.
For many years. They have been concepting and making this game for many years. I'm with you, Boom. They haven't said it flat out. Well, they kind of did. It's in polish. Okay, they are polishing the game. They know they want as little bugs as possible, but I don't want to hear no trash, because I'll tell you something right now. Okay, you're building a RPG, and I mean, we see it all the time, but we're seeing bugs in games that are more linear than this. So I don't want to hear it. There is going to be somebody that exploits a bug or finds a bug. Okay, this happens.
I mean,
But
it's Bethesda. I love them, but there's going to be bugs.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
but
come on.
you're talking a world bigger than Skyrim. Like, think about that.
12
You know what I'm saying?
times, 12
So-
times larger.
So it's going to be tough to find every bug. They probably have like 20 game testers on this every single day. You know what I'm saying? But those mentalities are not the same as us gamers. You know, we might find something that they don't. But one thing I'll tell you, they will listen. And that's we can go all the way back to the beginning topic. They will listen to us. And we'll say, hey, this is not working. And they will attempt to fix it. If it takes longer, they'll probably tell us. But right now, you're seeing Bethesda, which they've done, being a little, like, hey, here's a little snippet, okay? But the confidence I saw in all of their faces, and like they felt like they wanted to share more. But I feel like we're going to get another little thing, and then you're going to get a gameplay trailer probably at the showcase, E3. It's not really E3 now. I want E3 to come back completely, but I call it the showcase. You're going to see something really like groundbreaking from them.
Well, that's what they're notorious for doing. So they at the big show, I would imagine we're going to get a nice chunk of gameplay, and that's what they do. Normally they would give you a release date, but we already know it's coming out 11/11/22. So
and they wouldn't have done that unless they were absolutely confident, because I just want to call out the morons that talk about Fallout 76. That game was not done by the A team. The A team's been working on Starfield. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay. That game, and you have to realize they weren't purchased by Microsoft yet. They needed money. Okay. And they looked at that game and they say, hey, we can make money off this. You know what I'm saying? And they thought that they had the right formula. They left out a lot of, they basically left out a story in that game for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And all you did was just play with people, and you'd find little snippets, you'd go and hack a terminal or something. That was not what people expected. People just wanted a co-op Fallout. Really. That's the way I look at it. Like, I wanted to be able to play with another person. That's what it came down to. And they just completely went way over the top, and they went after the microtransactions, stuff like that. They've corrected it. I mean, a lot of Fallout fans that I follow and I love Fallout. They've said, hey, they corrected a lot of stuff that we hated, and I'm still playing the game. And that's the point. Like, that's a games as a service model, but it really it started out that way. Like, a lot of people ignore that. It really started out that way. They warned you about it in some way. This game is going to be like, like Skyrim 2.0 in space. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
very
what
exciting.
Or Fallout, you want to go Fallout 3, you want to go even Fallout 4. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing I'm thinking is, like, as time goes on, I think Xbox is going to allow them to have the mods, like, like these player-based mods come into effect. It's going to be like this kind of marriage of just like, it's going to be something that we've never experienced. And I think it's, like I said, the perfect time, because I think a lot of people are looking to space and saying, hey, like, what's out there? And that's what Todd
the
said.
exploration
Hey,
aspect of it
there,
is going to be crazy. And I would imagine, like all Bethesda games, there's going to be DLC, there's going to be additions as the game continues. I think what we're getting is going to be incredibly special, and I think that it's going to be that one game that we've been waiting for Microsoft first party to release. And I cannot wait to be a part of that conversation, especially on this podcast and many others. Let's get fuzzy. Fuzzy, before I get to your brother, I got to thank a few people. We have Danny Passion Official drops us very generous $5 super chat and says, I won't put Hogwarts Legacy head to head with Elden Ring. I'm not a Souls fan like that. I think Elden Ring is one of the best games ever. HL gameplay needs to be needs to satisfy him as a player. I think it will. I think that you're limited to 14 minutes. You can only get so much. I think the gameplay loop for Hogwarts Legacy is going to be really cool, really good. At least that's my opinion. Chaos Theory, who's been a channel member for 2 years. Holy matrimony, brother. Thank you for that. Definitely appreciate that. He says, great topics this morning, guys, and I made it live. Keep it up. Well, we're happy to have you here, brother, and we're glad that you are enjoying the show. Thank you for supporting the channel as long as you have. And Cloud Wabe drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, a bug may be rare and you won't find it until millions of people are playing the game. People don't understand how game development works. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's Bethesda. It's kind of, they're kind of known for having some bugs. I don't think it's a bad thing. But this game is, remember, this Starfield is in a great position because they didn't rush it out the gate to put it out there, right? They gave it a year more than we thought it was going to be in development. Originally, this was supposed to release last year. It didn't. And they held it off because they wanted to continue polishing it. This game is not only going to look incredible, I believe it's going to run incredible because of all of the polish. Now, again, could I be wrong? Potentially, but I don't think so. But Fuzzy, what were your takeaways from what we saw on episode 2 of the Starfield preview?
Yeah. Oh man, and I know there's a lot of knuckleheads out there that are like, oh, I want to see gameplay. It's like,
you'll get it.
Exactly. It's this little tease or taste, I guess you could say, that we got. Just it's enough to keep the hype and momentum going for this game. Like, people that are interested in it don't necessarily need to see gameplay right this second, but just having them like kind of like what Crispy had talked about, like having them sit at a round table and seeing the confidence in that team, and just the aura that they're giving, this thing is ready. And yeah, we don't have it in hand just yet, but that they've labored over this thing time and time again, going over every finite detail. And yeah, they're not going to be able to touch every corner because it's like space. It's like it's a procedurally generated universe that, I mean, you're going to have dozens of planets that you're going to probably be traveling, and the next player over may not even see any of those, but sees twice as many planets as you saw, but didn't touch any of the ones that you originally landed on. So it's not unlimited, but it's definitely had so much open space potential, and the fact that we got to see the companion, and I think they'll tease us with little in-game things here and there as we go along, like the some of the storyboard art that they had showed before, as far as like the different bases or different factions, as far as like their headquarters and things like that. It just ties into what is going to lead to be like an awesome sci-fi adventure. And yeah, I know a lot of people are either in the Star Wars camp or Star Trek camp. I lean more Star Trek than Star Wars, but the fact that you can kind of play both sides, as far as be a part of the pirates, but like work with the law enforcement on the back end, and just all of that being
what faction I'm taking, right? I'm going law enforcement. That's just, unfortunately, that's my DNA. Sorry, folks. Sorry to disappoint. No, but not a pirate.
But just think of all the fun you're going to have encountering the pirates, or encountering all the different factions that you may encounter, or that you may have to trade with. You may have to deal with the pirates to get better upgrades for your ship. So it's just all of those things that they just touched on adds to my excitement for the game. I'm looking forward to this game more than anything else, other than maybe Motorsport 8. Still fingers crossed that gets announced at some point this year. But outside of that, like, I wasn't big into Mass Effect when it was released, because I was on PC and it just wasn't. I was playing like Homeworld and other space related games that weren't necessarily story driven type of thing. And the fact that they have like 2,000 lines of dialogue, or 2,000 more lines than what they do for Skyrim, and just all the stuff
The
that they
scale and
touch
scope of this game seems unfathomable, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Like when you consider the cornerstone of Bethesda. Now,
Mhm.
some people may argue with you and say that it's Fallout. I would personally disagree. I would think that it's Skyrim.
Yeah.
Not so much, and not really just Skyrim. Morrowind was massive. Oblivion was massive. And this is going to be, folks, 12 times bigger than Skyrim. I don't know about how many hours. I know Zemi probably has beat. I put 90 hours into and that's a pale comparison. I mean, Zemi has beaten it multiple times.
Yeah.
I just think that if you are someone that appreciates the amount of work that goes into building these worlds that we've seen Bethesda do time and time again, there's a lot to get excited about, and that game is coming out this year. This year is going to be from a-hole to elbow, and packed with games, and we haven't even talked Nintendo, which they have. Kirby's coming out on the 25th. I know people are gonna, don't boo me, folks. Wii Sports, yes, finally
it's
we're
fun.
getting it. We're getting bowling back for the Switch. I can't freaking wait. I already have it pre-ordered. I actually bought 2 copies, one for me and one for my amazing nephew Tyler.
Nice.
But listen, let's bring in Web Dave on the conversation, and we'll bring Dreadpool, and we will get everyone out of here. Web Dave, this is look, if there's one thing that we can say about Todd Howard is he knows how to play up getting the fans excited. And these little vlog things that they're doing, made for the Wanderer, right? Getting people excited. They're not giving you too much peeks behind the curtain, but enough to definitely whet the palate. For you, where does Starfield fall as your most excited game in 2022? Is it on that list?
It definitely is on that list. I think it's going to be huge. I mean, like you said, everything that everybody else has already said about the game being, amazing size, scope, and the detail and the level you can get your character into, how you can pick it out and just really, flush it out the way you want it to be. That is so exciting. And then, of course, the different branches where you can go. You can be a bad guy, but a good bad guy, maybe. I don't know. That's awesome that you're the ability to be in there. And to do that is going to be the scope, the size. I'm looking forward to it. And then the graphics. I mean, this thing is going to be absolutely off the chart as far as what it's going to look like. I mean, what we've seen so far, obviously, very small parts. But when it does come, when we do get it, and whether it's a couple of months away, that we're going to actually see it. I mean, I think you'll probably have a breaking news special 3-hour podcast just about when that trailer drops, and we're probably all going to be like, I want on, because it's going to be big. It is really going to be big. I mean, I'm enjoying Elden Ring. Yes, I said the words, but to what's coming, what this is, how long he's worked on this, like you said, the polishing stage is here. It's gonna be big. It's just, I would be, there's no way it's going to be disappointing. That's just the level is so
now with
high.
all the polish that they have going on with
Right.
it. I mean, remember, this game was supposed to release last year, and they sat on it for an additional 12 months. And I believe it's going to succeed the same way Halo Infinite did. Now, Halo Infinite, I understand that there are some people that are questioning the content that they currently have, and regarding content drops. But we cannot argue the fact that Halo Infinite released in an incredible state, both single player and multiplayer, having that year of extra development time. Well, the Halo effect, as I call it, is happening with Starfield.
Yeah,
and
look
we're
at the
going to
screen.
see that come to fruition when this game comes out at the end of the year. And at that point, from the time it was announced that it was taking a hiatus to polish to release, it is going to be an incredible experience. That is my opinion.
I agree with you 100%. It's like I said, it's. I mean, there was people that said, oh, he's giving it a date. Why shouldn't give it a date? He knew then how far along they were. I mean, and they have been really working hard at this. The A team has been all over this, and I just from their passion in that interview, that, like you said, the schoolgirl excitement that they had, you could just tell that it's like, oh, you guys have no idea what's coming. You just wait till you actually get to see it. I'm hoping that it's sooner than later. I'm so ready. Like they've said, the panel members have said, it can't come soon enough. It's gonna be big, and everybody, I think, is really gonna be. I just feel that it's not out of the game of the year talk just yet. Even though a lot of people have already crowned their game of the year, yeah, let's just kind of see what they have up their sleeve.
Well, the three
And
big ones,
yeah,
and we've talked about it, we said it before, are going to be Elden Ring, it's going to be Hogwarts Legacy, and of course, it's going to be Starfield. Now, some people may throw Horizon into it. That would not be my game of the year the way the game released. I'm so disappointed with that game based on the bugs that I haven't gone back to playing it after 9 hours. I will get back to it when it's patched.
Right.
Graphically beautiful game. Story was really gripped me because I love Aloy as a character and how she has grown. But that game may not even hit my top 10 if they don't fix it. My brother played through it and he gave it a 7 out of 10 because of the bugs, same as me.
Right.
But these three games, are going to be big, and I just think when you talk Bethesda and you talk legacy and you talk about passion, a couple of panel members said this, when you saw the way Todd was talking, when you saw the way the other developers were talking about this game, they were dripping with confidence that this game is going to be a banger, and it's going to look like what you would expect the next generation Bethesda game to look like. Dreadpool, let's get your final comments, and we'll get everyone out of here so they can start their incredible weekend. Dread, I don't know where you fall with Bethesda games. Are you excited from what we've been seeing from these Vid-Docs coming from Todd Howard and company?
Well, yes. I mean, who wouldn't be? It's a game that people have been looking forward to. They've already stated this is Skyrim in space.
Yep.
So it is very well established. So I'm thinking, with a lot of pop reference, I think, Star Wars, I'm thinking space spiders because of all the bugs that they might have. you know, we'll just go with that. But, you do something like Ice Pirates, right? You can get space herpes. So you got to worry about that when you're on the ship. So it's just, I think it'd be cool, just the possibilities of where you're going, everything. It looks great, but yet again, it's all, take it with a grain of salt. But you guys are mentioning, the Halo effect, and I'm thinking, so we're getting co-op about a year after. I don't know. So it's just, like I said, I want to play it. I don't care. I'm going to have a good time with it. I'll create my own story, and I'll be hacking and slashing, doing whatever to space spiders and exploring planets. I just don't want it to be a No Man's Sky. I don't want it even with the upgraded everything that they've done after the fact.
No, this is going to be a lived-in world.
Yeah, exactly.
Because No Man's Sky, which again my brother plays a lot, he absolutely loves that game. I played it. I put like 60 hours into it when it was terrible, and I actually quite enjoyed it. But it was a very lonely experience. The one thing that we know about Bethesda is that they know how to make NPCs matter. Does that mean
I don't,
brother?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any fear, or I don't think people should be facing any fear at all that this is going to be like a No Man's Sky. I think like the greatest way of kind of explaining this game is it's going to be like the Outer Worlds on steroids.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
agree
that's
with that.
that's the way that Starfield is going to be like.
Yeah, that sounds about right too. So yeah, like I said, just have fun with it, right? Let's not be too critical over if this is going to be game of the year. Let's just enjoy the game and see what they push out, and find all the fun little joys of surprises that we run into when we hit these planets and share it with our friends. That's really what I'm looking forward to. Is you guys are playing Elden Ring. I haven't even bought it yet, and I got the FOMO for it. But you guys are sharing all the cool stuff, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. It's like, oh, well, if you go here, you get this, you get that. If you go this way, this is where this thing is. So stuff like that, I think, is going to be the same way with this game, and I'm looking forward to be a part of that one. Like I said, I'm just not into Elden Ring, even though you guys have given me FOMO, this would be another thing that would give other players that wouldn't be giving it another look, more FOMO for them to do something and check this out. So,
Well, listen, I think what we're going to get is something really special. I think everybody on the panel is excited for it. I love the comparison of Outer Worlds on steroids. Zemi, well said. And I mean, I love the Outer Worlds. Really, really enjoy the DLC. And really, I mean, obviously, you know, we love Obsidian, and we know we can't wait to see what they're going to do with Avowed whenever that comes out, potentially next year. But this year we got Starfield, and man, oh man, am I extremely hyped and excited, like everybody in the chat. So let's get everyone out of here. Let's start your weekend off on the right foot. Hopefully you enjoyed the near 2-hour program. We got the 3 big topics. Everyone had incredible points. Zemi, let's sell your brand, but more importantly, sell your game. Besides being an incredible community member, podcaster, and website entrepreneur, you are now officially a game developer. That's right, folks. If you didn't know, Zemi Games launched his first game onto Steam and Xbox through the creators program known as Back to School. It's actually quite good. It's very quippy. It will teach you that you are not as smart as you thought you were, because some of the questions I got wrong, and they were in fourth grade level. So it's not good for Boom, but it's a fun game, especially if you have kids. Sell your games. I mean, tell people where they can download it, how much it costs, and more importantly, what you're doing on the back end to get achievements added to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we still are actively working to hopefully getting the game put into ID at Xbox so we can add achievements. There are achievements on Steam. They're just not on Xbox because the way that we published it, they just don't support achievements through the creators program. But if you are interested in buying Back to School, it's an educational quiz game where the player has to answer challenging primary school questions to ultimately see if they're smart enough to pass elementary school. And it may sound
really
pretty
good,
easy,
man.
but it's actually quite challenging because some of those questions are pretty tough. If you guys want to buy it, it's on Xbox, it's on Steam for $4.99. And then here recently, we've just launched an update that included a really, really cool feature that I'm really excited about, which is an accessibility feature, which is a text-to-speech narrator that you can toggle on from the settings menu. And what that allows is any players who have a learning disability that affects how well they can read, they now don't have to worry about that while playing Back to School because the narrator that they can toggle on will go ahead and read all of the quizzes, all the quiz questions, and all of the answers to them, which is really, really cool. There's, of course, an additional feature of being able to turn on and off the timer, which also helps for players with learning disabilities. But one thing that I'm actually really, really excited to announce that we just recently announced a few days ago on our developer blog is that 10% of all profits from game sales will be going to the National Center for Learning Disabilities, which is an organization
awesome,
which helps children, teens, and young adults who have learning disabilities, which I am super, super excited to announce that. So if you guys are interested in checking out Back to School, once again, you can buy it on Xbox, you can buy it on Steam for $4.99. And then, of course, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Goldenrod Games because we are still doing a few more giveaways for Back to School. So if you don't have the money to be able to, afford the game, there are some options of hopefully winning a copy through a giveaway. You guys can also follow me on my personal Twitter account at Zemi Games for just more personal, I guess, updates, and also updates on my YouTube channel, Constant Gamer. Yeah,
nice.
Boom. As always, thank you so much, man, for the invite. I appreciate it. Oh, I will be on Stubbs Gaming, his podcast. I will be on later on this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern to do an interview over Back to School. And it's just going to be kind of like a game development interview and so on and so forth. So if anyone's interested in checking that out, be sure to check out Stubbs Gaming's YouTube channel later on this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Nice, brother. Well, listen, congratulations on the successful launch of the game. Let's hope that Chris Charla or anyone from Xbox is listening, this is a game that not only deserves to be in there, it really is so different that it's exactly what would fit something like Xbox Game Pass. It certainly would fit ID at Xbox. I don't have a direct line to Chris, unfortunately. Because if I did, I'd be talking about your game. I think that it's unique. The aesthetics of the game are just what you would get in school. I mean, the chalkboard and the way it writes is just it's a really cool experience. And if you have kids, I definitely encourage you giving it a shot. I mean, $4.99 is not a lot of investment, and I think that you are going to have fun. And they've already done the one update, which I thought was tremendous in regards to accessibility, being able to play the game even if you are someone that has a learning disability. That's tremendous, dude, and that can be commended.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I messed up. It's not at 5 p.m. It's at 6 p.m. because Britain hasn't turned back their clocks yet.
So 6 p.m.
So it's at 6 p.m. Also, on the 25th of this month, we're launching another update that's going to have some bug fixes, but we're also going to be doubling the amount of questions that are currently in back to school as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff, brother. Well, congratulations on that. Let's get everyone else out here. Crispy Bomb, by all means, sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone what shows they can find you on and where they can reach out to you on social media.
Can I just say, Zemi, salute to you, man. Like, you threw out some questions out there. I was like, what is this? I don't remember this from school. But I mean, elementary school, I'm 34 years old. I don't remember a lot from that. But a shout out to you, because I think I could stump the 14-year-old in the house, and it'll be pretty funny. At Crispy Bomb on Twitter, Crispy Bomb 28, Xbox Live. You can find me on Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We got the next podcast, 8 p.m. Thursday prime time. And, of course, you can find me back here on Breakfast with Boom, Friday, 10 a.m. And, yes, play the games and stop giving the trolls their love. Stop retweeting them. Stop doing all that stuff. For the love of God, they do not deserve that. Their soul is so eaten by a plastic box that you cannot help them, okay? And you're giving them clicks, so stop doing it, please.
Yes. Great public service message. Definitely appreciate that, brother. Listen, Fuzzy Belvedere, listen, you're going to continue. Just to give you the heads up, there was a story that dropped seconds ago from VGC where Polyphony Digital's president and Gran Turismo's series producer, Kei Yamauchi, has addressed the Gran Turismo 7 recent lengthy server downtime. And what he's saying is that they were afraid that with there's going to be another update, 1.08, regarding some issues discovered with 1.07, and that they were afraid to erase everyone's save. So they are they're taking their time with it. They said this is a rare issue. It was not seen during tests on the development hardware and or the QA sessions prior to release. And then making it a priority. So this is the reason for the servers being down. My sincere apologies for the late report to everyone. Still doesn't take away from the fact that you have to pay real world money to play the game after you bought it. But Fuzzy, if people want to reach out to you and potentially continue this conversation, where could they reach out to you on social media? But more importantly, check out your YouTube channel.
Well, greatly appreciate you having me on here this morning, Boom, and awesome having you back on here, Zemi. Really awesome game you were working on there, and man, kudos to you, man, for what you're doing. That's so awesome. Always love being on here with everyone on the panel. Dreadpool, Crispy Bomb, and Web Dave, and you, Boom. Man, you guys are awesome. People in the chat, thank you so much for joining us today. And for any of those that want to see my ramblings or complaints or kudos to even Gran Turismo on certain things, you can always find me on Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can search for Fuzzy_Belvedere also on YouTube. You can also find me on FSP on Saturdays with Mav and Just Key at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and the Shop Podcast with PTK Blam and Pong Soul at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time after the daylight savings time change. And man, can't can't wait until next Friday to be back on here with you guys on Breakfast with Boom at 10 a.m. next week.
Thank you so much for that. And of course, Web Dave, brother, sell your brand. Who you got coming up next for your interviews? Who did you recently interview and release? And where can people check out that YouTube channel?
Well, thank you, Boone, for having me on. Also, I want to say a big shout out and thanks to everybody that was in the chat today. They were bringing it really hard today, man. Bringing some great comments and keeping it real and keeping it friendly, which is awesome. We always appreciate that, dude. It's Outbreak Podcast. .com is my website. Outbreak Podcast is my YouTube page. And let's see. Week before last, I had on. Or last week I had Zimmy Games on, and this last week I had on. I also had Mr. Joanna Dark as well, and
Nice.
I also had on some great talent. But I also had on Joe was on this week.
Mr. Bad Bits, yes.
That's right, Mr. Badbit was on, and boy, it's some good topics there. And then coming up next week, I'm gonna have I did an interview. It's in the can. It'll be here next week with Boxenberger.
Nice.
And then I just completed this Tuesday, completed an interview, which will be up the following week with Fuzzy Belvedere.
Nice.
And which was very interesting to say the least. And we definitely get into to Gran Turismo and that. So you definitely want to tune in for that. And then I'm hoping to get interviews with Crispy, Bomb, and Dreadpool. We'll just have to see if they reply back to me. I'm just saying.
I think your request
I haven't
will be,
seen the DM yet, buddy.
It's coming, buddy. It's coming.
Yeah,
I
I was
promise.
gonna
It's
say.
coming. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, don't worry. But yeah, listen, good stuff.
man.
Great interviews, great people to interview. It's good to know that it's great to be on a podcast, but the one-on-ones are very interesting, and you're doing great work with that.
Thank you, Boom.
Dreadpool, brother. Let's get you on out of here. Where can people check out Breaking Bread with Dread? What new episodes are you releasing, and where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yes, as always, thank you for the chat for showing up. It's always appreciated when you guys are civil with each other. I mean,
Mhm.
throw those little jabs out there, but still stay civil, right? We're all friends. We could all disagree, so keep that up. We need to obviously learn from each other, right? We learn from difference of opinions. So, Zemi, congrats. What was it? $4.99 out of yada of mine. So, so yeah, thank you for showing up and hanging out with us. The rest of the guys, Web Dave, you didn't send me a DM, so don't throw me under the bus like that. But Crispy, Fuzzy, Boom, great. I'm always love being here on Fridays with you guys. It's always fun.
Absolutely, and we appreciate you coming in, especially when you're coming from work. A lot of people don't know that you are just getting off work before the show starts. So we definitely appreciate you being here.
Yeah. So I appreciate everybody. Breaking Bread with Dread, you can find it on anchor.fm/Dreadpool. It's also on Spotify, Apple, Google, Bitcast, Outcast, Castbox, Public Radio, yada yada yada. It even some other podcast pods. Everywhere. I just found it out. Yeah, it's like everywhere. It's I'm
just
sure
type in Breaking Bread with Dread and you'll find it on your favorite RSS feed.
Yeah, so I didn't know how much it blew up, but it's just you can find it there. For everything else, just look up linktree.com/Dreadpool. It's got my YouTube, my Twitter, my TikTok, my merch. I actually sold a couple of the Planet Dreadpools that I
dude, that's awesome, brother. Yeah, year. Awesome.
So yeah, these cats didn't even know about it, and they were talking, and I said, "Hey, I actually have a shirt," and they're like, "What?" So I sent them the link. 2 of them bought it right on the spot.
That's awesome, brother. So yeah, that's really cool. I love to see that. And listen, you're doing great work. We love the uniqueness of Breaking Bread with Dread, and of course, we love the stout opinions that you bring to this podcast and any show that you're on, specifically when you're on with Wilmy on Wednesdays. But listen, folks, that is your show. Thank you so much for hanging out on this week's new episode of Breaking Bread with Dread. Breakfast with Boom, Holy Matrimony.
Can I add one more thing? I almost forgot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our great community friend, Evermore Saga, Husk and I have the creator feature tomorrow at 8 p.m. with him.
Very nice, dude. That guy's got a lot of story to tell.
Yes.
Nice. Well, listen, check that out. They're going to be sitting down, Dreadpool and Husk, with, of course, Everborn Saga, who is not only part of the Gaming Circle podcast on Saturdays, he's also a part of Primetime Gaming with me and the rest of the crew on Monday evenings. And, of course, thank you for the super chats that came in. They tremendously help us, do the big giveaways, and we do have one coming for Easter. I'll get, I'm sitting down with Mrs. Boom to go over the finances on how big it is going to be. It's going to be decently sized, where we're going to have at least 8 winners, but we're just trying to figure out how much, of the gift cards we're going to be giving during that giveaway. But that information, stay tuned to one of the podcasts we'll be doing, next week. On Wednesday, I'll be sitting down with Jeffrey Grub, the guy with the best hair in the business, on one-on-one on the new episode of X Vlog Live. But that is not happening Thursday. That's happening on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because me and Jeff, we have different schedules, and that's when he was available. So we're doing the episode one day earlier. And, of course, the regular, Primetime Gaming Monday evening, Xbox Factor podcast on Tuesday afternoon, and then we'll be back here again next Friday morning on a new episode of Breakfast with Boom. Big shout out to the near 400 people that were here. Thank you for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that is important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.